County Commissioner meeting. Hard to believe. It's the last day of February and we're careening into March. Do I have a motion on the Clerk General?
So moved.
And yes,
And I also make a motion that we approve of the requisitions.
and yes. And we have, I assume that you're Mr. Platt?
I am.
Mr. Platt, please come forward if you would, and for the record, if you would state your name and your address.
Sure. My name is Jonathan Platt. I live in Yellow Springs, Ohio, 213 West Whiteman Street in Greene County.
Well, thanks for being here. I understand that you want to introduce a new nonprofit to us.
I do. Although the nonprofit has been around for 8 years, I'm very excited to say that we have a contract with Lebanon Correction, and we will be working with 12 fathers very shortly. And I just wanted to shout it out to you guys. My mother lives in Louisville, and she's having some medical issues, and I find myself coming back to Yellow Springs and Louisville quite a bit. So I just came from Louisville, and I'm on my way to Yellow Springs with my family, and I just made it work. And you guys don't have anything on your docket, and I wanted to make sure you did. And thank you for.
Well, we're glad you're here. Do you want to tell us a little bit about the
I
work that
do.
you're doing at the correctional institution?
Absolutely. So we just got $15,000 from the Greene County Commissioners, and we got some play money from, not play money, but some real money from Dayton Foundation. So we're able to do this for people who are incarcerated, and that's what we've always wanted to do. Every family that participates, the child receives an MP3 player with the parent actual audio on this. We download it on a computer, we do the editing, and we put the actual stories. So whatever stories dad wants to read. Shannon, let's just say you're incarcerated and you want to read to your 2 children. We give you that opportunity. Not only do we give that opportunity, we give you the opportunity to read aloud in workshop models in the penitentiary. We spend weeks and weeks bringing in volunteers, working on the deliverability of the voice. We're not interested in video at all. We're interested in the magicality, and I made that word up, the magicality of the voice. Let's get real, wonderful fairy tales into the children who need those stories the most. And it really does drop in, and I kind of dropped some pictures on the table here, and a lot of them show when we meet with the child. We meet with the child at the local library. We're not interested in going to their home. Usually the child is with a caregiver. It's a grandmother who is watching over other children from the immediate family, 62 years old average, and 20% of all the clients, of all the caregivers that we meet in the library is their first time to that library.
Wow.
And I just find that very significant because usually it's a long travel for us to get there, but this library is about a mile from their house. So we introduce them to the services, we ingratiate the staff from the library, we use the reading room, and a lot of the clients will say, wow, this library really has some things for us. And that's, we want to bring out the children of the incarcerated and show that they should not be ashamed. And one of the extended activities of this is the child gets to read to the parent. And we're starting to set that up, and we need more volunteers to do that. For every MP3 player that's produced, we use about 10 volunteers to get that done. And it takes about 2 months. So I gave a presentation to the Rotary, the Lebanon Rotary, wonderful folks. We had such a good time. Gave them a door prize. Golden Lamb is my mother's favorite place. And they gave me a little bit of money. But this was before I knew I got the Lebanon contract. So I went back to them and said, I like the little bit of money, but I'd like a little bit more. And they haven't called me back. But in the meantime, I'm here, and I'm ready to rock Warren County. I'm really excited. So this is my first time outside of Greene County in a long time. We also have a lot of partnerships with Montgomery County. Judge Walter Rice is a huge champion of what I do, and so is Lieberman, who I think is your doppelganger. Looking at your bio and how you and all the things that you do for the children of needy families that need these services the most. I have to meet you, and it's an honor to see you. And I'd love to know more about Groundworks and what that operation does, and how you all collect data. We have terrific data, but we're kind of at a point where I fundraise all the time, and I operate all the time. And I'd like to hire.
Me too.
It's quite the chore. But I believe in what I do, and I'm so lucky that other people do. And I think I'm starting to repeat myself.
So I'm super curious about those that you said you're going to be working with 12 men.
Yes.
And what is the profile of those men?
Absolutely, and that's something we've worked on quite a bit. This is actually the first time I'm going into a male prison.
Okay.
I always go in the female prison,
Yeah.
DCI, because
Yeah.
women just respond so strongly to this.
Yeah.
Men do too, but women, they're better readers.
Yeah. Yeah.
they're just really into. That was unfair to say. They're when you pull a woman. I don't want to sound sexist. But it just seems like the family unit is affected more when a woman is incarcerated than opposed to a man who's incarcerated. But to answer your question, we want to know where these fathers, where their families are before we start the program. We have a lot of connections with the Hope Zone, Northwest Dayton, the Northwest Partnership with a mega church. We want families there. So we're going to figure out who the families are and then approach the men. So it's kind of the horse before the cart kind of thing, but we have to do it. We have to find where the money is.
Is this through Omega Baptist Church in
Yes.
Dayton? Okay.
Yes, the Mega Baptist. So we're going to
Vanessa
focus
Ward.
on, see if any family member is from there, then they're in the program. Also Greene County, because I have money in Greene County, and also Warren County, because this is where we are.
Is there some ages of the children, so they have children of a certain age that make them a good candidate for the program?
Yes, the younger the better, just because that's where a lot of the money is. And I also have a contract with Imagination Library.
Oh, that's what's my next question.
Yes, Imagination Library and I have finally married forces. I just wasn't talking to the right people, and I finally talked to the right person. And so every inmate I work with, they get a free book along with what their child is getting. So there's continuity, and this works for us really well because we want to have that matching literacy, because whatever they read on the inside, the child gets on the outside, and there's going to be so much to talk about when they get out. Everybody that we work with is getting out, so it's all about the reentry. It's all about bringing families together in a very simple, visceral way. And the sustainability model, I think, is huge because this doesn't have to go away. We just have to set up a little bit of infrastructure, and this thing writes itself. You got the penitentiary, which will be the workshop area. You got the churches. I love churches, and the libraries, and that's it. And then we got me, and pretty soon we're gonna have an editing van, and we can just tool around from place to place and get the editing done in an editing van. And I do have an office now in Yellow Springs. It took me a long time, but we're now at a United Methodist Church. So that's the profile. That's what we would look for with the people that are in. I used to just go into the prison and say, who wants to do this? And we would do it that way. But the problem was their families were all over the place. I mean, I have a very limited budget. I can't go to Oklahoma and give it to the child. So we had to do a lot of mailing. So that's why we started going to jails. Because jails are better because the families are right there. Why can't jails be hubs for community outreach? I don't know why they can't. They are not silos of oppression. That's argumentative. People disagree, but I think they should be. I mean, every time you walk out of a jail, you see where the library is in a small town. The libraries and jails are next to each other. I think there's a reason to that. I don't know why we work so hard to keep them separated. I think we need to find much more infrastructure to combine them. I have signed so many MOUs with the president of the library and the sheriff, and they've never met each other. Well, that's a shame. They should know each other. They should work really, really hard together because you have the most, I'll stop. I will stop.
Tom, do you have any questions?
No, I mean, so what's your background?
I'm a theater major.
Okay. Where'd you go to school?
I went to Antioch College, and I was in the Army before that. And then I got a master's in rhetoric from Wright State. And I also have a teaching master's when I was a teacher in New York. I'm an old guy. I've been around a lot. I've taught middle school and high school for 15 years, and then I taught college-level English classes for the last 10 years.
Okay, where did you teach at?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, where did you teach at?
I taught at Clark State Community College. I taught at Wright State. I taught at Central State for 5 years.
And when did you come up with this idea?
In teaching college classes, I taught remedial English, like the English credit you get before you get credit. Like you don't even get credit for these classes. These are like a lot of adult education classes before you go into the community class. And I love these classes because they were right on the front line. Half of my students were just recently released from prison or jail. And the reason why I know that is because I'd asked them. And half of them, so 25% of the entire class, would drop out in my class for the most ridiculous reasons. For reasons, Commissioner Grossman, I think that you and I could probably handle. Like my car broke down. My roommate was my driver to classes and he'd skip town. Or my parole, I'm too close to a playground. For whatever reason, they can't come to class anymore. And I've always thought there's got to be a better way to reach these folks. And why are we just now reaching to them? How can we reach in further? And I got really excited when I had the opportunity through Sinclair College, another place where I've taught, to teach an actual class at DCI. But I came up with that idea around then because what's the dangling carrot? What makes them excited? And what makes them excited is to read to their kids. My mother was a great reader. She read to me a lot. I love reading to my daughter, even though she kicks me out of the room now. She's 14. I've read to her up until I think last year was the last one. But I think reading out loud is one of the greatest skills in literacy you can have, and I think it's very underused. I mean, you guys are great orators. This is what you do. Your intonation, your pauses are effective. I want their intonations and their pauses to be effective to their children.
Did you tell us when you started doing this?
I started doing it 8 years ago. DCI was my first gig, Dayton Correction, and I worked under a reentry nonprofit. I kind of parked underneath there. But the way I did it 8 years ago is the same way I do it now. And the reason why I've survived we've survived, is because I do other populations as well. I work with Alzheimer patients, and I just finished an Alzheimer program with one guy, but they paid full. They paid me full, so I got to work with them completely and solely. And some of that proceeds goes to the jail So that we use Peter to pay Paul model kind of thing.
So basically, you've got this, you go into and you meet people in the prison setting where they read stories on your MP3 player or on a device that can be transferred to that, and then you deliver that to the family whose parent is incarcerated,
Yes.
so that they can hear the story directly from the parent. And in the 8 years that you've been doing this, how many families have you actually served with this?
Probably about 300 families and over 500 children and thousands of stories.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Excellent questions.
Well, we really appreciate you stopping by on your way back to Yellow Springs from Louisville.
Well, thank you very much. I'm so glad that you all had nothing to do.
Well, we appreciate the work that you're doing, and
Right.
we'll be interested in hearing how this first venture into Lebanon Correctional goes.
I will keep you posted. I know Tina actually called me back, which is not a very common thing. So I want to thank you.
Tina's great.
So I think that means I can call you again and just give you an update.
Absolutely.
I will. I'm really excited to go into Lebanon, and I'm actually trying to get a hold of them right now since I'm in the area.
Great.
They probably won't, but we're going to start soon. So keep you posted.
Great.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for being here today.
Right on.
Martin, do you have anything to come before?
I do not have any add-ons. I do
No?
not.
Tina, how about you?
I do not.
Okay,
Do we have a motion then?
all right, motion to adjourn.
And yes.
Wow, I took all your old